So an unreasonable number of people don't understand why a clarity call is important for getting an understanding of your business, or even more importantly, for explaining your business to somebody who wants to help you. So what we're doing here today in this live is we're going to talk a little bit about that. We're going to talk about some of the calls that we've been on, what a clarity call is about, and how to come to a clarity call prepared and with an understanding of what you need to get out of it. We'll tell a little bit what we'd like to get out of it, but really, what do you, as somebody seeking advice for your business, want to get out of a clarity call? So, Keith, why don't you start a little bit? Like, what should the key piece of information that somebody wants from a clarity call be?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing is to try to gain some understanding as to whether or not whatever your business idea has, or whatever business idea that you're working on, like whatever it is, or that you're working on, right, that it makes sense, right? It's something that is worth investing time. Time is energy ultimately, and it's the first expense that you're always going to have. And it is free, but it isn't, right? And so you can, we could talk about wasting money most certainly by not having a clear plan and everything else. But, there's the element of wasted time. And so hopping on a clarity call for 15, 20 minutes and being able to bounce that idea off of somebody that's impartial in a lot of ways, that may be unfamiliar, but, wants to familiarize themselves. I think there's an incredible value to that. Not only in terms of obviously the pre-planning and all the things that you and I talk about in terms of why it's important to work through certain steps and process to ultimately save money, but I think the earlier that you can get on a clarity call and bounce that idea off somebody, you save time, and time ultimately is money. It's an expensive resource.
Yeah, in more ways than just financially, right? So we had a whole episode last week where we talked to Dr. Savona about balancing that family aspect with building a business, and time with your family is priceless. You need to be able to have that. So getting that clearer picture, being able to, come out of it with good ideas, and really be able to focus your time in the best possible way. If you don't come out with anything else out of a clarity call, hopefully the direction you should spend your time in is a really good first step.
Yeah, and I think, that's the biggest thing is the clarity call, for us, isn't designed to sell anybody on anything, right? It'd be great to be able to work with entrepreneurs and the whole deal, but, more than anything, it's about being able to dig into what our passion is, which is why we started Hatching Ground, right? All businesses we talked to, everybody we've talked to, every business owner that we've talked to along the way has brought up the word passion. We bring up the word passion a lot, and this is a passion for us, being able to dig into these ideas and help people. And some people may walk into that clarity call and, they choose to go out on their own, and they choose to feel good about where they're at, and they can, walk on their own, right? There's other people that are going to want additional resources, and most certainly we have that in the form of our community and in the form of our coaching availability. But I don't think that, you and I intend to have that clarity call necessarily be a massive sales pitch in any way. It's really about listening. More than anything, I think that's the number one thing, is listening and asking some very pointed questions in terms of what the idea is, why do we think that that idea is a good one, and that the community, that the people that are in or the circles they're in need that idea, and establishing a mission and vision more than anything in that clarity call. Like an initial mission and vision should come out of that clarity call.
Yeah, I had a conversation with someone today. She used to be an assistant principal at the largest elementary school in the Bronx. And we were talking about projects that she's been working on. And we met through children's literature. She wants to be an author. I am an author. I coach people on how to be an author. She's taken classes before that I've taught. And we were talking today just about other ideas. And in talking about other ideas, she had brought up something that she was working on, a project she was working on, and kind of said, I'm on the 8th revision or whatever. And so we went down a path and a completely unrelated discussion where I was coaching her as an author. I'm not getting paid to coach her as an author. It's just something I like to do. Like, we love helping people create things, helping, seeing new things built or grow or come to life. That's why we do this. It's what kind of gets us jazzed, gets us out of bed in the morning, right? Yeah. And that wake up call, and being able to do even just that simple 10, 15-minute call, even though it's going to benefit whoever is calling us, it does give us energy. And, with what we do as our regular jobs, being a little bit of a repetitive process, that breakup, that energy we're going to feed off of from your excitement about your new idea, your process, your business is going to help us. So even though we're not getting anything for it really financially, it does feed us, and it's a great use of our time because that gets us to the next step. And if it ends up with us working together, even better. If it doesn't, know that we are getting stuff out of this too. We do it because we like to, feed off of your energy. We're like leeches.
Yeah, well, no, like you and I actually together got to dig deep, with some fine gentlemen out of Canada, right?
Yeah.
Last week or the week prior, and you and I left the call and thanked them. It was the best part of our day. We both said like this was awesome. It was the best part of our day. It was a great idea, really exciting. And now we do have a follow up. They decided to follow up with us. Take some next steps in terms of getting some some more guidance and listening to those ideas. And the that's huge. Like that was awesome. And it was the most energizing part of the day because it was something fresh and something to dig into, and we were able to brainstorm and throw back some ideas back and forth. So 100%. I mean, it goes back to every business starts for a reason, and we're here because we really do love bouncing ideas off of people, bouncing ideas off of each other, and bringing our strengths and weaknesses. Our strengths and weaknesses complement each other, our strengths and weaknesses, and allowing them to complement each other to ultimately help somebody else. And that's got to be your motivation as a coach. If you're going to be a coach in anything, whether it be a sport, business, whatever it is, life, coach, mentor, etc., you have to be in it for the right reasons. And that reason ultimately is to help somebody be better. It's to help move somebody else forward. And at the core as a coach, that helps move you forward as a person too. And so that's what you and I get to feel when we help people.
Yeah, it's when you think about it and you look at coaches, and I've been watching a lot of sports coaching in the past couple of weeks and watching what they do. I mean, we're actually been talking about soccer. There's a box. They have to stand in the box. Like they can go back and sit down, but they have to stand in this little box. They can only go so far, and they can't go out and do it for you, right? They can help push you in a direction. They can encourage you. They can bring you over. They can send you out. Like there's certain things that you can do. There's strings you can pull, but you're not a puppet master. You're not controlling anything. It's more like, nudging things in a certain direction or trying to nudge things in a certain direction. And as a coach, you prepare your players as best as you can. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to help develop the skills that people need to be able to be successful in their own way, right? Some players are very creative. Some players are hard workers. Some players have a little mixture of both. And each one develops differently, right? So even if, and I was talking to a group of people, right? So there were 3 coaches. They all work together. One of them is the head coach, but it's really kind of like a 3-headed monster that they have. And, we were talking about these different kind of coaching philosophies and different ways that athletic coaches are kind of forced to present their information to their teams. And they were talking about how they want to divide it up. They don't want that head coach to be the only kind of main guy for a lot of different reasons, but it would help out for their players to be able to see them all kind of the same level, and just coming up with different ways to do that. And the one thing that they had never thought about is they talk about their kids all in different ways, but they talk about themselves in one way. Like you're 3 different people, right? Your team, each member of your team is different, right? But each of you is different too. Management is different, and each person's style is going to be different. So it's about finding the ways that you guys all work together. So I know you all want to be kind of in this parallel kind of band, but each of you is going to be in a different place on that band. So lean into the things that you do well and push people towards the other person when that's what they need, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, it goes back to strengths and weaknesses, and understanding where your strengths are and working together. You want to be able to identify that, And that's a skill set in any entrepreneur too. Where are you going to be strong? Where are you going to be weak? And I think a lot of times, full circle in terms of the clarity call, you have somebody that's going it alone initially, right? I've had this great idea. I've talked to some friends and family. Don't know if I'm getting the honest opinion from friends and family because they might want to be nice. And they may not want to tell me that what I need to hear. And so I think it's important to have the opportunity to talk to some people who can maybe identify where those strengths and weaknesses are and how things need to be put together or where there's gaps and holes on it. And, full circle, I think for me as a coach, both in athletically and in business, truthfully, you're not going to outperform your preparation, so it goes back to you're going to play how you practice. And so you're not going to outperform your preparation. And there's just no reality of that. But if you can feel comfortable in your preparation, you can feel confident and comfortable when you go to play the game. But if you look back at your preparation, you go, I'm not sure if I did that, or I took the easy way and all those things, you should be prepared that there's going to be some things you're going to have to work through when it comes down to playing the game. And I think in business, that's where we are right now is we want to make people confident in their preparation. We want to make people confident when they go into business that when it's time to play the game, so to speak, and we're live and we're up and we're running and there's real dollars and cents and all those things, they can look back at their preparation and know that they did it and that they can be confident, moving forward. Confidence is huge. You and I wanted to hop on, right, and have frankly a clarity session on why a clarity call matters. And I think that's, in truth, it does go back to that. It's the first step in a series of steps that you're going to have to take in order to get into business. Idea validation is huge. And, are we going to be able to validate your idea in one clarity call? No. Are we going to be able to probably establish what, if that idea were to be successful, what the mission and vision of that idea may look like, which will change as we go through a process. But yeah, I think that, there's some affirmation that can happen in that initial call that's huge. And again, I think it's really important to be able to have an impartial ear to listen to that idea. And again, it's, as much as we're talking in the call, I think, you and I both look at those calls as opportunities to listen first. And then, after listening, be able to kind of give some guidance as to what that next step may be. And it may not be a future call with us initially. It may be a couple steps to go and do something else and then come back to us. Or people may decide, to go a different direction. Getting outside of the friends and family box in terms of idea validation is huge. Having somebody being able to question the idea and where things stand mentally, in terms of that idea is also huge. And it allows for structure and planning and preparation to come down the line.
Yeah. So what stuff should somebody bring to their call? Like when you're getting ready to schedule it, and I know like when you reach out to us, we'll give you a list of things that we'd like to see, but let's say you're going with somebody else. What kinds of things do you want to see somebody bring to a clarity call?
I mean, I think the biggest thing is that any business idea has to have a need that it's, what is the need that it's, looking to fill and exist? Why do you think this idea needs to exist? If it's a standard, I'm starting a bar and, those types of things, that's fine. But, like what makes your bar, what do you think is going to be different about your bar? Those types of things. We talk about the automotive shop. If there's 12 mechanics in a 5 square mile area, like what need are you feeling? Like, because that's demand. You have to recognize what the demand is surrounding your idea. And then I think, for my side, which is the more, I guess, analytical side in terms of numbers, et cetera, what resources do you think that you need to have to get that idea off the ground? And what resources do you kind of have to get that idea off the ground? Because some of those things are non-starters. And it goes back to one of our discussions in Unfiltered Founders, like that $1 million idea may legitimately cost you $1 million. So if that's the starting point and we're a far, far, far away from having that $1 million, we may need to refocus that pretty quickly. And it's not giving up on the idea, but we may need to refocus that pretty quickly. And that would be actually a prime example where we're not going to be refocusing you into us coaching you on it. We're going to be refocusing you into maybe reevaluating and then circling back with us once you have that figured out a little bit. Those are really the two things, the establishing the need and then kind of establishing what resources really exist to put towards that idea. Both, and then full circle, time being one of them as well.
Yeah.
Time being an expense. For sure.
And for me, you talked about it a little bit, but that market, right? So you're starting a bar, there's 12 bars in the area. if you're doing automotive and you love working on American made cars, but you live in, the Southwest where, you know, there's lots of American made cars. It's kind of like the hobby for everybody is to have these cars. That's great. But if you live in a place where the weather doesn't permit having these really old classic cars, maybe that's not the best thing for you to do in this area. Maybe you need to find a better location for what you're thinking of, or maybe tweak it a little bit. That market, really understanding who you think your perfect customer would be. I mean, there's a lot more to defining the market, but I don't need you to have that right off the bat. I just want to know how you have a great idea. I have this widget, and I know that this widget is great for women between 25 and 50. Great. Awesome.
Yeah. And
Like that's a really good start, and we can do all of our research based around that and help you define that market and see if it's a real market or if it's a fake market. And even if, again, even if you've done some research, I've learned a lot from my wife who does market research. Just because that market seems to be there doesn't mean that it's a realistic market. Those people might exist, but they might not buy anything, or they might not need that particular thing. So like those next steps don't need to be defined right now. Just that
no,
first one.
but I mean, those are really, establishing the need, establishing the resources from both the time and monetary, element, establishing the market. That's a huge, those are kind of some really big first steps from a business owner. Those are really big ones that you kind of have to get out of the way. And, if you don't have those, you have to do a little bit more digging in terms of that idea to get there. And ideally we can work through that on a clarity call. That is a 15-minute call. We can work through those real big basics rather quickly.
Because it comes down to three sentences, right? Mm-hmm. So the market is defined by your perfect customer. That's it, right? So one sentence, your perfect customer needs blank. My perfect customer needs this widget, right? And then how am I going to do it? Right. So if you can get those three sentences, or even, it might even just be one sentence when you put it all together, you bring that to that meeting. And I mean, you can try it out on your friends and family. Get it down to that 1 to 3 sentences and elevator pitch them with that. And if you feel good about it, that's what you bring to that call. Just that simple thing.
And I think maybe that is the goal for even us walking out of a clarity call, is that you probably have your elevator pitch down. Your 30 seconds of like, what is my idea and how am I going to do it, right? That I need to then give. Like, is it going to be a perfect elevator pitch? No. But you should be able to walk out of that clarity call feeling a lot closer to being able to give it, for sure.
Yeah. And then, this is when we put that hook, right? For the beginning of our live, when we put it up, we say, everything you're doing is completely wrong. It should be this simple. And there you have it. We'll just put that at the beginning, and then we'll leave it here at the end as well. Perfect. Thank you very much for your time, and please try the veal.
Try the veal.
We'll be here all week.